Connections Radio presents.
Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele, and on this edition of Vegas Hockey Hub Recap, where we break down every single game of the Vegas Golden Knights season, we're going to be discussing the most recent game that happened as your Vegas Golden Knights. They were at T-Mobile Arena at the Fortress, going up against one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, a Stanley Cup contender, as you will. So that was a fun game, really good game to actually sit back and watch, and we'll be covering it down and breaking it down here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media, and here on Vegas Hockey Hub with your host, Ian Rachiele. So it should be a good episode here on Vegas Hockey Hub, here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. Check out all the amazing content we have on the network, including Vegas Hockey Hub. We have a dozen shows on here. Also, go to the social media pages at PR Connections on YouTube, or go to the Vegas Hockey Hubs. We are everywhere on all social media platforms at PR Connections Radio or at Vegas Hockey Hub. Or if you want to follow your host, I'm right down there at Ian J. Kelly. So this recap, talking about the most recent game that happened with the Vegas Golden Knights, is what we've been doing every single game of every single season here with Vegas Hockey Hub on PR Connections Radio. So this recap, really interesting game. Unfortunately, it did not go the way that we were hoping it would go for the Vegas Golden Knights, but that's besides the point. So when it comes to this game, let's start from the beginning, and actually let's talk about the pregame notes, because there's an interesting situation that has popped up. Now, former Vegas Golden Knight and a guy who helped us win a Stanley Cup championship this past season, Phil Kessel, there's been a report that has come out that he will be signing with the Vancouver Canucks, who are the Pacific Division leading Canucks. And a really interesting dilemma there. I mean, if Phil Kessel does indeed sign, hey, look, good for him. He wants to still play hockey, still wants to be in the NHL. That's good for him. I get it. But when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, I was still holding out a slimmer of hope that Phil Kessel would sign with your Vegas Golden Knights, would bring himself back to the organization based off of what he did last year. He's a good guy to have in the locker room, someone who you can have every single situation. You can talk to the younger guys. That's what I liked from Phil Kessel. So, yeah, Phil Kessel report has come out that he will be signing with the Vancouver Canucks. And speaking of roster moves, talking about the pregame notes, Byron Froese has been called up from Henderson. So Byron Froese, who has had a cup of coffee with the Vegas Golden Knights over the past 2 seasons, he's someone that you call up when someone has been hurt or if they need to have a roster spot and someone to be on the bottom 6. Byron Froese has been that guy in the past. He would be a fourth-line center in this game against Carolina. We'll go over the starting lineup in just a little bit. But Byron Froese called up. I mean, he's a good top 6 forward in the AHL, bottom 6 forward in the NHL. And what an interesting career Byron Froese has really had. I mean, when you really stop and see what he has been, I mean, back from those really bad days of the Toronto Maple Leafs when they were tanking for Austin Matthews, he was with the Montreal Canadiens for a little bit. Now he is with the Vegas Golden Knights this past season and this season. So Byron Froese called up from Henderson. And Mason Morelli, for the first time this season, has been called up from the AHL to play in Vegas. Now, Mason Morelli, he is not going to be in the starting lineup. He is going to be a healthy scratch, but still, him being called up to from the AHL to the NHL. If anybody who does not know who Mason Morelli is, he spent his past few seasons with the Washington Capitals, was actually on the roster of the Calder Cup winning Hershey Bears this most recent season. He was signed by the Vegas Golden Knights on a 2-way deal on a 1-year contract this past offseason. And he has not played with the Vegas Golden Knights at all, so this will be the first time that he would be on the Golden Knights roster. Now, in the preseason, we got to see a little bit of him, and he is a hustle type of guy. He's a good, energetic, speedy guy, somebody you could have on the bottom 6. It's a really solid job there for Mason Morelli to have been called up from Henderson from the AHL. He is on the active roster now. But in corresponding moves, Brendan Brisson, despite his good point streak and what he has done recently with the Vegas Golden Knights over the past 2 weeks, Brennan Bryson, who is a former first-round pick by your Vegas Golden Knights, have been sent down to the AHL. This could be due to conditioning. This could be due to just roster moves. They wanted to have Byron Fraze come in instead of Bryson. But whatever the situation is, Brennan Bryson, him playing a near dozen games in the NHL, it's a good experience for him. It's a good kind of, feeling out, seeing what he can do in the NHL type of situation. But Brennan Bryson, I really like what we saw from him in his limited action in the NHL. Scored his first goal in his second career game, which is something that he will forever remember. And for Brennan Bryson, him going back to the AHL, I see no problem with it. To me, I think they're just going to send him down for more conditioning. And Tobias Bjornfoot, who the Vegas Golden Knights claimed from the LA Kings back in January, has been sent down to Henderson. Now, he only had about 1 or 2 games with Vegas before getting hurt, and then he was put on long-term IR. Well, unfortunately, due to roster spots and due to space on the NHL roster, Tobias Bjornfoot has been sent down to the AHL, to Henderson, where he is actually very familiar with the AHL, as he has actually spent the last few seasons with the Ontario Reign of the American Hockey League when he was with the LA Kings. So Tobias Bjornfoot, defenseman, who's with the LA Kings, former first-round pick, who was claimed by the Vegas Golden Knights on waivers. And after only having 1 or 2 games in Vegas, after recovering from his injury, he has now been sent down to Henderson. He will be in the AHL until moment notice for your Vegas Golden Knights. But the best news and the greatest news for your Vegas Golden Knights, Shea Theodore is skating in a normal jersey in practice. Though Shea Theodore, who's been in a red jersey over the last couple of days, coming back from that injury that he suffered a while ago, he is now skating. He is now with the organization. And Shea Theodore should be back. I'm going to speculate real quick. I will say by Toronto. By Toronto, I will not be shocked if Shea Theodore is in the starting lineup, skating alongside Brayden McNabb as a core member of the Vegas Golden Knights back in the starting lineup. And what a difference it has been. I mean, Brayden McNabb, he has had Kaden Korczak on his pairing. He has had Brandon Bahal. He has had even, guys like Lucas Cormier, Tobias Bjornfoot. There have been so many moving parts alongside Brayden McNabb, but his real line mate, Shea Theodore, coming back. And in net for your Vegas Golden Knights is Adin Hill. Now, Adin Hill, he has done good in the past, but you would see how he's going to do against a playoff contender, and that is Carolina. Carolina right now, one of the best records in the Eastern Conference, competing with the New York Rangers in their division. And considering what happened the last game that Carolina and Vegas did, Carolina, when they were in Raleigh, they won 6-3 over your Vegas Golden Knights. So they were now coming to T-Mobile Arena to face your Vegas Golden Knights. So Adin Hill being in net for this game, really interesting to see how he does for your Vegas Golden Knights. And considering how he has done in the past, it's just good to see how he would perform and how would he be able to go against one of the best performing offenses in the NHL. Now, to kick off this game in the first period between Carolina and Vegas, it would start out with a bang, as less than a half a minute into the first period at T-Mobile Arena, who else but Jonathan Marchessault with a goal for the Vegas Golden Knights to put them up by 1, and assisted by Ivan Barbashev and Nick Waugh. So Ivan Barbashev, Nick Waugh, and Jonathan Marchessault on that first line. And it's really interesting to see how that first line has gelled and really developed for your Vegas Golden Knights over the past month. Jack Eichel suffered that injury against Boston. We're waiting for him to come back with the Golden Knights organization. But Jack Eichel, him being out, Nick Waugh has really been a solid number 1 center over the past 2 weeks. Jonathan Marchessault, just an incredible job this season by the Vegas Golden Knights. It'll be curious to see what happens with Jonathan Marchessault, because anybody who knows about the upcoming offseason, he is a free agent. Now, there's a lot of time away. Obviously, there's plenty of time for stuff to happen from here and now. But Jonathan Marchessault, a huge player for the Vegas Golden Knights. You have to bring him back if you are a Vegas Golden Knights fan. So Jonathan Marchessault puts your Vegas Golden Knights up by 1 against the Carolina Hurricanes to start out the first period. And, your Vegas Golden Knights, Ivan Barbashev and Jonathan Marchessault, the chemistry has gelled very well. I have to point that out. Jonathan Marchessault and Ivan Barbashev, despite the first month's struggles, they have really taken off in terms of chemistry. And I like what we're seeing from Jonathan Marchessault and Ivan Barbashev. And that's one of the main reasons why your Vegas Golden Knights started out with a 1-0 lead to begin this game at the Fortress at T-Mobile Arena here in Las Vegas. Unfortunately for your Vegas Golden Knights, this would not last for long, as about 1 minute later, Andrei Shneftikov with his 12th goal of the season to tie it up at 1. I mean, Carolina Hurricanes are very well known for their explosive offensive scoring, and this guy right here is no different. I mean, this organization, you have guys like Seth Jarvis, you have players like Stefan Noesen, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, Martin Necas. I mean, there's so many talented players on this team. Sebastian Aho. I mean, this team is a Stanley Cup contender, and I'm going to explain why I'm wearing this shirt just in a little bit. But when it comes to a Stanley Cup contender, the Carolina Hurricanes are indeed one of those teams. And when it comes to Andrei Shneftikov, he has become one of the young core members of the Carolina Hurricanes. So no shock here that his 12th goal of the season. And Seth Jarvis, he kind of helped out on the situation here to tie it up at 1 for your Vegas Golden Knights. Now, for the remainder of the first period, the only 2 penalties that you would have were both on Carolina, and that was a Andrei Shneftikov high sticking penalty against Alex Pietrangelo, and then a Martin Necas roughing penalty against Braden McNabb. Now, the unfortunate part for your Vegas Golden Knights is that they went 0 for 2 on the power play. So your Vegas Golden Knights, unfortunately, did not capitalize at all on the power play situation. There was one moment that I thought maybe could have gone in. As a matter of fact, there was a play by Ivan Barbashev where there was a shot that was near Spencer Martin, and I thought maybe had a chance to go in, but it just did not clear. So your Vegas Golden Knights were at 1-1 early on in this game. And, second period, not much else happens. In fact, a very slow second period between Carolina and Vegas. Really not much on to report on. There was a shot by Paul Cotter that had a chance of going in, but it just went wide. So to begin the third period between the Vegas Golden Knights and Carolina Hurricanes, not even 1 minute into the third period, Seth Jarvis with his 18th goal of the season, assisted by the longtime Carolina Hurricane and captain Jordan Staal. And your Carolina Hurricanes would be 2. My Vegas Golden Knights would be 1. And unfortunately, the Vegas Golden Knights would just be behind the 8 ball after this point. It just felt like the energy with this team just kind of started deflating towards the end of the third period. It just seemed like this organization did good in the first period. I liked what I saw from them there, but they just struggled as it was getting later and later and later into the game. So unfortunately, 5 minutes later, this would be the nail in the coffin for the Vegas Golden Knights as Stefan Noesen with his 12th goal of the season, assisted by Jesperi Kotkaniemi and Martin Necas, to be a 3-1, and that actually would be your final score for the remainder of the game, as the Carolina Hurricanes would take care of business and beat the Vegas Golden Knights 3-1. And, I understand that Carolina is a playoff contender. They are a Stanley Cup type of team, no doubt about it. But let's just call it what it is. The Carolina Hurricanes, when we played in Raleigh, dominated from tip to tail. Whereas in this game, Vegas had the momentum in the first period. We all saw it. But then Carolina took over when it mattered the most. I think that's really unfortunate. I think that's the worst part about it, is that Carolina was getting better as time goes on. It felt like as the second period and third period was taking off, Carolina was building their momentum. You could tell their strides were getting better. You could tell the offensive zone was getting more and more opportunities for Carolina. So it would be a 3-1 loss for your Vegas Golden Knights. Now, our player of the game does have to go to Ivan Barbashev. Now, Ivan Barbashev, he did not score the first goal of the game, but Ivan Barbashev in this game, he was actually everywhere in this matchup. I mean, he had 4 shots on net. He had 2 hits in this game. There's also the same Ivan Barbashev who played around 20 minutes on the ice, which was about the most out of everybody in the forwards. But he also did solid in the faceoff circle. He had about a 75% faceoff winning percentage for Vegas. So Ivan Barbashev, player of the game for Vegas. Very underwhelming, but he was the bright spot on this game. And you see it right here. I mean, it's just unfortunate what happened. I mean, the Vegas Golden Knights just gave up those 3 goals. I mean, they had an early lead. They were up 1-0. They executed in the first minute. Jonathan Marchessault got them on the board, but then they just fell off. And unfortunately, the Minnesota game was very similar. Vegas scored against Minnesota about 1 minute into the game. I know, I was at the game. And Minnesota just took advantage later and later and later as the game went on. So I don't know if this has been going to be a reoccurring problem for Vegas. I don't know if we're going to see this more and more often throughout the year, but it is an unfortunate situation where your Vegas Golden Knights gave up 3 goals after being up 1-0. So that's just an unfortunate circumstance there. There's really not much you can do on that end except just sit here and explain that your Vegas Golden Knights did not do what they needed to do in this game. And just overall, just a bad game. The defense seemed like they were lacking at times. I also really didn't like what I saw when it came to the opportunities in the offensive zone. So, I mean, overall, I mean, there were some sloppy situations there. I really didn't like what I saw when it came into the neutral zone, how Vegas was trying to hustle down to the offensive side. I just didn't appreciate some of the things that Vegas did in this game. It was just an overall sloppy second period. The third period looked like they were just depleted and they were done. So Vegas Golden Knights, it was just an unfortunate game. And there's just not much positives I can talk about at this moment in time. I mean, I wish I could. You know, Ivan Barbashev, Paul Cotter, those are 2 that I would say had some good moments in this game. But that was probably about it. Now, here is your win-loss record for your Vegas Golden Knights at this moment in time, battling with Edmonton in that Pacific Division battle. LA still doing what LA's been doing all year, which is racking up overtime losses and picking up a few wins here and there. But as long as your Vegas Golden Knights still hold on to some sense of momentum here, they will still be a playoff contender. And this is going to be a Vegas Golden Knights team that, you know, Vancouver's starting to take away just a little bit. They're racking up wins. They're slowly moving up in the Pacific Division. But your Vegas Golden Knights, as long as they take care of business, as long as they get to about 45 wins at the end of the year, okay? This is speculation for sure. But if you get to 45 wins, considering the 6 overtime losses you have right now, that is 96 points. And based off of what we've seen in the past, as long as you get to a certain amount, you will be a playoff team. Now, the lineup for Vegas Golden Knights in this game against Carolina, line 1 was Ivan Barbashev, Nick Waugh, and Jonathan Marchessault. Line 2 would be Brett Howden alongside Chandler Stevenson and your captain. So Brett Howden being on the second line, very interesting choice there. We do not see him on the second line as much as we have seen in the past. Line 3 would be Paul Cotter, Michael Amadio, and William Karlsson. So Paul Cotter, who has been on the second line over the last couple of weeks, he is now on line 3. And then line 4 is one of the first times we've seen this. Jonas Raumberg, Byron Frais, and Keegan Kolazar. So due to the injury of William Carrier, he's still out. So that's why Raumberg's in there. And then because Nick Waugh is on the first line right now, they had to have a fourth line center. They essentially swapped out Bryson for Frais. And people are probably going to ask, why am I wearing the shirt from last year? Why am I wearing the 2023 Stanley Cup champs shirt? Well, the reason why is because in September, I made my prediction video. And in my prediction video, I had your Vegas Golden Knights going back to back in the Stanley Cup. And who did I have them beating in my prediction video? Who did I have your Vegas Golden Knights making a statement win and beating in the Stanley Cup Finals? The team that we face tonight, the Carolina Hurricanes. And since this is still my matchup, since I do not change my pick from the preseason, I'm wearing this shirt to say that when the Vegas Golden Knights win the Stanley Cup once again, and they will beat the Carolina Hurricanes in the Stanley Cup Finals, I will wear another shirt just like this, and I will say proudly that your Vegas Golden Knights are your reigning, defending, two-time Stanley Cup champion. I will say that here on this show. Because regardless of the struggles, which happens in the NHL regular season, we get it. But when it comes to your Vegas Golden Knights, this is a team I still believe in, and the Carolina Hurricanes are still one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference at this moment in time. Now, the team stats here that we're going to break down on Vegas Hockey Hub. Your Vegas Golden Knights outshot Carolina 30-28. Vegas had 10 more hits than Carolina did, 30-20. And the Carolina Hurricanes had 2 penalties in this game, while Vegas, impressively, had only 0 penalty minutes. So the discipline was good for Vegas. No penalties in this matchup against Carolina. In the faceoff circle, the Vegas Golden Knights won 52% of their faceoffs. So kind of even in that matchup, 52-48. Kind of even in the playoff circle there, but a slight edge to the Vegas Golden Knights. Carolina would go 0 for 0 on the power play. Vegas would go 0 for 2 on the power play. So the special teams did not show up on the power play side here with your Vegas Golden Knights. Block shots, the Vegas Golden Knights had 18 block shots, while Carolina had 15. And the takeaway column, Vegas had 11, and Carolina had 5. So this is just a situation where the Vegas Golden Knights, they did some things right in this game, and other things they did not do well when it comes to this matchup here. So this was another edition of Vegas Hockey Hub Recap. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. Now, the next matchup, that's going to be the San Jose Sharks game. Then you're going to have Nashville and Toronto following those ones. So we will be doing the Vegas Hockey Hub Recap show, talking about all of those here on Vegas Hockey Hub. So until next time, I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. Continue watching hockey, go support junior hockey, and go Knights, go.